There are some dangerous pieces of financial advice online, and some of them are extremely popular, but what are they and why are they so dangerous? And why am I seeing so many people continue to do these things and believe these things? Let's go ahead and break it down. There are about 4 of them. I would say a few of them you can kind of collapse down into one. And not only are they popular, they sound very good and they are instinctual to some of us. That is why so many people cling to some of these pieces of advice, and some of them are old and outdated, which is another reason why so many people fall for them. The first one is this: we feel like we have to do X before investing. For example, one of the most popular ones is, I need to pay off either credit card debt, student loan debt, or all of my debt before investing. That is not true, and it can be dangerous and cost you thousands of dollars in this way. For example, let's say it just took you a year to pay off all of your debts. Last year, in 2024, the stock market was up 24%. You do not get to go back in time and get that 24% and allow that money to compound. So if you are investing $10,000, $20,000, whatever it is, you are going to be forever behind. There is no way to truly catch up by missing out on that year. And in most cases, it usually takes you years, plural, whether it's 5, 10, or even 15 years to pay off that debt, depending on what debt we're talking about and how much you have and whatever that interest rate is on that debt. So you're talking, again, 5 years and it's 7% on average that the stock market is growing. It's hard. It's going to take a very long time for it to catch up. And again, ain't no time machine to go backwards. Also, if we're talking about 401k, you also have the concept of a match. So you are putting in $10,000 and then your employer is also putting in money. You're not going to be able to go back and say, hey, I was paying off my debt, I was doing quote unquote the right thing, and go back and get the money that was there. That is what makes it very difficult, if not impossible, to catch up. So you're talking about you putting in $10,000, your employer putting in $10,000, and that money growing at 24% in 2024. When are you going to get that situation again and it compounding? And then happening again the next year, and the next year, and the next year. It may not be growing at 24% because I don't know what the stock market is going to do in the future. But that is the prospect of you waiting to invest to go do something else. What should you do instead? Do both. Do both. Figure out what it is that you want to do and how you want to rank those things. Maybe you're not investing 15% in the market. Maybe it's 10. You can still get some level of a match and still attack the debt. Whatever balance you want to do, I can actually help you figure that out, right? Is what financial advisors do. But you want to do both so you can get at the advantage of growing your money while also paying down the debt. This also goes to people who think that you should do no investing until you have your first $1,000 in savings or the first 3 to 6 months of your expenses in savings. Look, it is important. It is absolutely important to have an emergency savings. I would argue you should have more than 6 months, especially in this type of economy. But you don't want to just wait and do no investing at all until you do that. And the reason why, again, is the exact same reason why you don't want to wait to pay off all of your debt. Yeah, you absolutely want to pay yourself first. I argue that investing is a part of paying yourself first. The other part is, depending on what your salary is and what your expenses are, people forget that it don't just take 6 months to save 6 months. Sometimes it can take a year or more because, I mean, think about it. Let's say you make $100,000 a year. Let's say you take home, I'm just throwing numbers out here. Let's say you take home 70, right? You've invested a percentage of that. You pay taxes on a percentage of that, healthcare, insurance, all that kind of stuff, right? Let's say you leave 70, right? You spend a good chunk of that, and of that 70,000, let's say that you spend 60 of that. So your expenses are $60,000 per year. Okay, you only save $10,000. Half of that would be $30,000. And given the example, you saved $10,000. That means it's going to take 3 years to save 6 months of expenses. Now, that's not bad. That's not a bad thing. That means that you'll be missing out on investing for 3 years. That means that you'll be missing out potentially on an employer match for 3 years. That is the problem here. You slowly saving up your cash, that's fine. I'm all for that. But missing out on that part for that long, that is the major issue. Now you can argue that in the equation that I just threw out there for you, a part of that was investing. That's why it was, $70,000 left over. So technically, yes, you would have more than $70,000. Therefore, you would have more than $10,000 left over. That's true. So perhaps it is 2.5 years. So that's fine. You can get there in less than that. But the thing is, it's going to be more than a year just for you to save that 6 months. And that is generally the case unless your salary is huge and your expenses are quite small. That is normal. That is quite normal. I don't think most people realize that, hey, it does take time to save that. And for most people, it does take years. But realize that part is fine, but you also want to multitask here. Automate. I think that is the solution here. Say, hey, look, I'm putting in the 10, 15%, whatever is best for you. I usually recommend 15%. And I'm going to do $300 a month. 150, whatever it's going to be to hit that goal and work towards both at the same time instead of cutting off one and not paying attention to the other. The next one is investing in the products and stores and services that you use. People say this all the time. They truly said it when I was getting in the field, and it made a lot of sense. It made people feel great because people would say, hey, look, you're learning about the stock market. You're learning about not being a consumer. Why don't you become a business owner? That is what you should do because you are making everybody else rich. Why don't you become rich? So if you are shopping at Target or you're going to Starbucks every day, you should own a share of it. That is how you become rich. Look, dog, that sounds great. The problem is not every place that you shop at makes it a great stock. That's the problem. That is truly the problem. Target, for example, last I checked, is not a great stock. We've talked about this stock before. You're going to see more about that, how terrible the company has been and why people are fighting over it. You can check out this video right here. I know for a fact Starbucks, my wife goes to Starbucks faithfully every morning and gets an iced chai latte with oat milk. A good husband memorizes his wife's order. Okay, we've been married 10 years as of last week. She goes there faithfully Monday through Saturday, and that stock is trash. Should she invest in that? No. Over the last 5 years, the time I'm doing this video, Starbucks stock has been down 20%. So no, it may get you interested in the stock market, but I'll tell you right now, I'm not interested in you losing money. I'm not interested in losing money myself. That's not a tip that I've ever given people. You can look at it, you can research it, but just going around and looking in my pocket and saying, all right, well, I spend money here, here, and here. Let me go and buy those stocks. You might get lucky. You might, hey, I look at Microsoft, or this has an NVIDIA chip. That might work at times. It's an extremely popular tip. It's not necessarily a useful one and one that can be consistent with gains, right? Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. A better way to approach it is, what are my goals? What am I trying to do? And what is my research process? Let your research process drive you to what are the best stocks for you. That is a better strategy, and we've done several videos on how to do that. If you want to know what my research process is and how I look at the stock market, you can check out this video right here. Another thing that I commonly hear is, hey, I just started this job that don't offer a 401k match, or I'm going to be at this job for a year and they're not going to offer me a match until I'm here for X amount of time. I understand that. And it feels unfair, and there are a lot of people who mistakenly feel that if they'll offer you a match, you shouldn't do it. Go and do something else. You just start your IRA, start a Roth IRA, just do it on your own. Don't worry about investing at the 401k at your job because it's worthless if they don't give you a 401k match. That's not exactly true. It's popular advice. It feels like it makes sense because you're being independent, but that's not exactly true. Here is why. What other investing account allows you to invest more than $24,000? I'll wait. I will wait. You're not going to find one, especially one that allows you the tax benefits that a 401k does, unless they create a new account between the time I'm doing this video and by the time that you watch it. That is the main thing. A regular 401k allows you to invest and defer taxes now, and then you pay taxes at 59.5 if you withdraw 59.5. You can draw later than that if you choose. Or some jobs have a Roth 401k where you can pay taxes now and withdraw it tax-free at 59.5 or later if you decide to do that. $24,000 I can put in, well, more, let me be more specific, more than $24,000. They also increased the limit. That's why I'm just saying more, because you could be watching this and the limit could be $30,000 at some point in the future, right? So more than $24,000 currently, the time I'm doing this video, you can do that. You can't do that with the Roth. In 2026, the limit is going up to $7,000. That's all I can do. That's it. And once I hit that limit, I'm stuck. But I can do more in a 401k without the match. That is why it is still important to consider it. Now, if you are only doing $3,000 a year, okay, fine. Right, you're going to be equal in both places. I would still argue though, but again, also the simplicity of sitting down, said, hey, I'm doing 15%, and you just put your hands up and allow everything to do it for you is easier for most people than going separately and managing their own IRA by themselves. Not to say you can't do it, you absolutely can, but it's a little bit more effort. If they have the 401k, take that. You can do both. You should do both if you have the funds to do so. But again, $24,000 that has tax advantages. Use it. Take it. Like that's an advantage to you. Don't just avoid it because they're not giving you the free money. I too would want the free money as well. I feel like I'd be cheated if I didn't get it. However, that doesn't mean that that account is not worth it. Those tax benefits might absolutely be worth it depending on where you are and what your current income is. Now, these were the most common things that were dangerous that I have heard, but I've also reacted to some wild takes that I've also heard on these here interwebs. You want to know what those were and my reactions to them? You want to check out this video right here.